to do so. With that being said, let's kind of go over our agenda. So for today, first, we'll start off with just a quick overview of the fellowship program. If you were with us last week, just bear with us. We want to walk folks through the intentions of the program and some of its core components so we can make sure that everyone is on the same page and is aware of what the fellowship offers. And then after that, we're actually going to walk you through step by step our selection criteria and how we evaluate applications. And we're going to actually encourage you, if you would like, to ask questions throughout that process so we can keep it interactive. And then lastly, we're going to have some more isolated time for Q&A. So throughout the session, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll try to create moments where we can come off mute as well. But again, my colleague, Jess Cho, who's an associate partner with Promise and one of our fellowship coaches for the year, will be here, and she'll also be checking out the chat. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so if you're new to us, I do want to share a little bit about Promise. So just for context, we are a nonprofit venture studio. What that means is we support innovators and accelerate innovations for equity in early childhood. Our vision is to see a world where all children, no matter their background, can fulfill their innate promise. So how we intend to see that vision through is by making the goal of achieving equity our collective focus. It's also our North Star and our definition of impact. So I want to walk you all through, again, a little bit about the fellowship program to make sure we're all anchored. And if you missed our last session, the recording is actually available on our fellowship webpage. So if you would like to go back and watch that detailed walkthrough of the program, you can go there. But if you didn't, no worries, no pressure to feel like you have to watch it, because there's going to be a lot of valuable insights shared today. So back to our focus for today's time. The number one thing I want to share is that the Promising Ventures Fellowship Program is a no-cost accelerator. It's designed for a small, select group of promising ventures that are ready to take significant strides in scaling their impact. So we understand that entrepreneurship presents plenty of challenges, especially for those of you in the early childhood space. And that's why our fellowship is dedicated to helping you overcome barriers and achieve sustainable growth and impact. And so to do this and provide the support, we have a pretty dynamic team here that Jess and I are really excited to be a part of. And these are the folks who help to bring the fellowship to life. So what you see here are a few individuals who will actually be a part of our fellowship coaching core. These are mission-driven entrepreneurs themselves. We have folks who have experience in early childhood education, social impact, business development, marketing, and a whole host of other areas. And so you're going to have exposure to this entire team as we facilitate the program, and hopefully it's a great one for you all this year. But as you look at these faces, at least two of these individuals on your screen will serve as your guides, your connectors, and thought partners through the fellowship. And so you're getting a glimpse of who you'll be working with. And I'm really excited to really talk about how you'll do that through the program. So briefly, I'll walk you through some of the core benefits and components of the fellowship program. If you were here again last week, you saw this jigsaw puzzle, but we'll go through it pretty quickly. Number one, we provide some one-to-one coaching and strategic advising. So it's really like having your own dream team of coaches. So we work really closely with you to customize this part of your support. And so last year, when we did our feedback survey, we heard over 94% of our fellows share that they consider the Promise coaching component to be the most beneficial part of the program. And then the second piece I want to highlight is the supportive peer community. One of the things that we hear year in and year out is that this kind of incredible bond that's developed over the fellowship time period really helps to create a network for folks. So you're in a space with a lot of like-minded innovators, and they're there for you in this experience because it's a shared learning experience to share advice, support, and connections. And so you never know, you might actually find a potential partner out of one of your fellows. And then the third piece I want to highlight is that we do provide this really special component of the program, which is the personalized, nurturing leadership development space that we have with our adaptive huddles. Just so you're familiar, adaptive leadership huddles are where we really focus on sharpening your problem-solving skills and making sure you feel equipped with the tools to tackle and distinguish the difference between an adaptive and technical challenge. So last year, we had one of our fellows tell us analyzing problems from an adaptive perspective has been a game changer. It allows us to sit with discomfort and find transformative solutions. So that's one of the parts of the program we're always excited to bring to you all. And then lastly, I just want to mention that targeted introductions and connections are a critical part of what we like to provide you all. One of the things we want to do is not just expand your horizons, but expand your network. And so the way we do this is we open up our extensive network. And so there'll be plenty of opportunities for us to connect you to the right contacts who can help you soar. And guess what? You're also going to have an opportunity to pitch and share more about your work at a forthcoming or future show and tell. For those of you new to show and tell, it is our interactive venture demo day event series. And so when you become a part of the fellowship, we try to harness each of these puzzle pieces to supercharge your progress towards achieving your goals. So if you're new, I hope this gives you a pretty good introduction to the fellowship. With that being said, I now want to switch gears. Would love to take the next 15 to 20 minutes or so to just walk you through our Promising Ventures Fellowship selection criteria. Again, Jess, I do want to welcome you to chime in if you ever feel like it, but also just monitoring the chat. So we will get into it. So as I start to walk us through the selection process, if you have questions, again, feel free to drop those. We'd love to make this interactive for you. But first, I'll name this. When we evaluate ventures, we do it across 2 domains. We try to assess program fit, and we also try to assess what I have labeled here today as potential. And so program fit means we are seeking ventures that have a clear vision, a strong team, and the stability to make meaningful progress on their goals, during the program, with the support of Promise. So we want to ensure that the fellowship is the right fit for your venture's growth and that we can actually provide the best resources for you to achieve those goals. And then additionally, when we talk about program potential, what I'm referring to is your business potential, market potential, as well as your impact potential. So this means we prioritize ventures that have a proven market, you have some traction, as well as you've identified a clear understanding of a measurable need for the solution that you're bringing to the market. We also look for ventures who are creating and are committed to social impact at scale. So we're looking for folks who are really committed and passionate about making a meaningful difference in the lives of children and their families. So just to back up, how do we assess program fit? Well, that's going to be the first category of evaluation that I'm going to walk you all through, and we're going to do that in a step-by-step manner. So first, we prioritize mission alignment. So that means we're seeking ventures whose work and approach aligns with Promise's mission to create more equitable outcomes for children and families just facing systemic barriers. So we are excited to work with ventures that prioritize addressing inequity through their solutions and strive to produce more equitable outcomes as a priority. So this is one of the first evaluation categories that we assess when we're looking at applications. And then the second piece that I want to highlight that we review is we're looking for ventures who are offering a high quality solution that effectively addresses the needs of the communities they serve. So as you think about your beneficiaries, your users or clients, we really want to understand the quality of the solution that you have for them and how it meets their specific needs. And so this starts by having a deep understanding of the community that you support. And this also involves providing evidence of a recognized need and demonstrating those existing challenges that you've seen for the community as regards to this. And then also, we'd love to understand how you're offering a value proposition that tackles that challenge effectively. And so next, the third category that we look at within this domain of program fit is we place a high value on strong fellowship teams. We really look for teams that embody diversity, and that diversity can be diverse lived experiences, in particular those who have a lived experience that's relevant to the communities that they are seeking to support and impact. We also look for diverse racial and gender identities. Our experience has shown that teams of 2 with strong expertise in their impact area and who also have senior leadership. So folks who are within the organization have the ability to shape and steer the strategic direction of the solution that you're working on towards the fellowship. We find that folks that have a team composition of that nature are really best positioned to accelerate in the program. Katina, I see your question here about should a one-person shop not apply? I wouldn't say you shouldn't apply, but I would say that, again, we do prioritize teams that have a team of 2. Just because of the capacity of the project and the way that you'll be leaning in. Yes. Can one person be outside the organization? Yes. We've had some instances where folks have asked, can it be a board member? Can it be a volunteer? It's all about having someone who can show up with you into the fellowship space and work alongside you on the work and the goals that you're seeking to progress. We definitely welcome creativity. And one of the things that I shared in the last session is we really want you to use the application to tell the story of why these 2 individuals are the right folks to be on your fellowship team when it comes to working towards those goals. So when we mention team composition, again, this is what we've seen to have a lot of success in the past. And so we definitely want to lean on what we know from previous fellows. But again, who that is from your team, the makeup, that's up for you to decide for sure, but we'd love for you to just share the context of why those two individuals have been designated from your team. Awesome. I love those two questions. Keep them coming. The next thing that I'll share is we're about finding teams that have bold but realistic goals. So the goals we look for are ambitious, but they're also, again, realistic. And so we're looking for folks who are focused on scaled impact, who want to support more children and families. We're closely going to examine your current capabilities as an organization. So what does your team composition look like? What is the skill set and expertise that's on that team? Tell us about your financial position. Is the organization currently in a sustainable state? Also, we're going to look to learn how you operate. And so what we really want to do by looking at that operational and internal capacity is understand how you're best positioned to take advantage and move forward the goals that you're naming in your fellowship application. So, you know, I guess a better way to put it is, do you have the internal capacity to move the goals forward that you're naming in the application? So we're looking for bold goals, but we're also looking for internal capability to work on those goals. And so, again, we admire teams who have really big ambitions, big dreams, but are also willing to take some risks. So even if you don't hit the bullseye right away on the goals that you want to advance and your strategic priorities as an organization, we're excited for folks who really want to learn and improve their model as well, because we believe through those learnings, you can help shape, of course, your organization, but there can be a lot of best practices and knowledge that can help shape the field of early childhood as well. So again, we're looking for big, ambitious goals that are bold and can shape the field as well as your work. But we do welcome you to consider your capacity to ensure that those goals that you're setting are realistic. Okay, so to round out this category of program fit, I want to share that we do prioritize ventures whose solutions offer a fresh approach. So we're looking for folks who may be utilizing innovative technology or strategies or introducing new methods to address the needs that you've identified or your opportunity. So I know when we hear the word innovation, that can feel like a really vague word that covers a lot of ground. But when we say innovation, we're really thinking about all the cool ways that you are bringing your solution to the market and interacting with communities or children and families. And so that could be a number of things. It could be a new product. It could be a smarter business model. It could be better distribution methods, or it could even have some technology and some tech magic. And so with that being said, innovation doesn't have to mean that like you all are reinventing the wheel at your organization. Sometimes it's just about combining, you know, new ideas, different ideas with a super product or service. And so what sets, you know, true social innovators apart, just based on our experience, are folks who are really hyper focused on the needs of their clients and beneficiaries. And so they're really focused on getting to the heart of those needs and discovering what the pain points are, and creating a solution that addresses that. And so we want to learn from you how your approach is taking a new spin to many of the historic problems that we're facing here in early childhood. And so great, I just have walked you all through 5 of the assessment areas that we'll look at under this program fit category. I do want to pause here before we move forward and just take a moment to see what questions have arisen for you as we went through that content. Again, feel free to pop off mute and share what has come to mind for you, or drop it in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. Awesome. Okay.
So my brain was trying to form a question based on the focus on innovative technology itself. I know you went into some detail in terms of how you see how you guys are framing innovation. At the same time, maybe you can expand just a little bit more, because it just seems like it is situated within the framework of technology, and the fact that those two words are connected together, is that something that would give you a boost on the application over somebody that, or a team that is innovating in different ways?
It would be hard to say without having an understanding of the technology if it would give you an edge, but I can say the way that we're approaching it in the review process is we look at innovation as this really broad umbrella. And we understand that there are different ways that folks are innovating. For example, last year, one of our teams, Social Creatures, was actually an earlier stage organization, but one of the ways that they were innovating was how to address the need for social connectedness among caregivers and parents by actually using billing codes, medical billing and insurance and programs and systems like Medicaid and Medicare to cover the cost of getting parents the support they need, which has not traditionally been provided in that way. So that's an instance of where they were looking to turn the business model of how we get care to caregivers when it comes to their social or emotional, as well as just mental well-being. And so that's an example of model. One of the things that I can say from a technology standpoint that we saw in the program in that very same fellowship was CloseGap. They were an innovative solution, and that they were using technology to create a check-in solution that ensured that every child in our early childhood system could have a trusted adult in their life who would be able to understand and hopefully speak to and intervene when there are moments of crisis that could lead to worsened mental health outcomes for children. So we've seen a mixture of both. I can't say that one outranks the others without understanding what those differentiating innovations might be.
I do have another question, but I want to be fair to other people on the call in case they have a question at this time as well.
Fire off. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so it's just, my organization has existed for a long time. And I was just wondering if that's something that impacts the application as well in a negative way.
No. Jess, did you want to add anything or chime in?
First, like if your organization has existed for a long time, no, absolutely not. I think there's a lot of I'm so sorry, y'all. My child has a stomach bug, so he's literally sitting right next to me. But to answer your question in short, no. What we've found too is there's just a lot of different life cycles of organizations. So some have been doing work in community for a really long time, and now they've gotten different motivations to expand their work or deepen their work further in the community, and they just need the support and time. And some are really early, and they're from the get-go, their dream had been to scale an idea that they had. And so length of time as an organization doesn't have a really big impact. The other thing, I just want to double down on what Demetra shared around a pretty broad definition of innovation. So she shared at the very top of the call that what we are really oriented around at Promise is this idea of equity as impact. And so what we're looking for are not necessarily just technologically innovative ideas that are going to increase equitable outcomes across the early childhood field. We think that innovation can happen in how you think about co-creation in partnership with community, right? And it's not that there are many different modalities of innovation that will really accelerate the impact that different organizations and different social entrepreneurs might have in early childhood.
Thank you.
Tamara, it looked like you wanted to come off mute and ask a question too.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the specific review process itself and who's reviewing applications. Thought that might be helpful.
Yeah, so the internal Promise team, primarily our coaches, serve as the selection committee. There have been instances historically in the program where we've invited partners to assist in the application review and interviewing process. That is yet to be TBD if we'll have additional external reviewers in this process, but what you can anchor on is many of the individuals that you saw on that early slide or with our Promise coaches will be a part of the internal selection committee. And I'm sorry, did I answer the question fully? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And then I see Katina. You have your hand up.
I do. Thank you so much. My question is centered around when we talk about early childhood. I think when I was looking at the information earlier today, it said birth to 5. I taught for 15 years. And so the way in which we define early childhood is usually, up to 3rd grade. So I generally work with pre-K to 3rd grade. So part of that is up to 5, but it's beyond that as well. So in ascertaining fit, I'm just wondering if I'm a good fit or not.
Yes, I'll start it, but I would love for you to add to it. I would say, Katina, you don't have to be explicit or exclusive to 0 to 5. Some overlap is definitely okay. But Jess, welcome you in to share more on that.
Yeah, I think there's different definitions of what early childhood is, and certainly like so much of brain development happens between 0 and 8. Part of why we focus on 0 to 5 is really the idea around where funding is and what the differentiation is and focus between the ages of 0 to 5 versus 5 to 8, even though obviously child development happens on that full-on continuum. What I'd say specifically, Katina, to your question is certainly the pre-K market is a big market and is an important part of that early childhood experience. So I don't think it precludes you from being a program fit for us. We would just want to really see and hear in your application, I think, like what exactly within, how might you be focusing explicitly in that sort of like 4 to 5 year old range, and how does the services and supports really help accelerate learning there that then gets sustained in when kids are 6, 7, and 8.
Thank you.
And Surinder, I see you have a question in the chat, but welcome you to come off.
Yes. So there's a question in the application which says, how would you describe your venture stage of development? So what I'm planning to do is that we currently have B2C products, right, direct at to the parents, but where we want to go now is to Head Start, early Head Start and Head Start programs. So this is going to be a new product which we launch, which is why we want, we're going to apply for this fellowship. So how do we answer this? Should it be finding product market fit, or should it be early growth? How do we answer this question?
Yeah, initially, Surinder, with hearing what you shared, I'm thinking finding product market fit. It sounds like you already have an existing user base or customer base.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that, okay. I thought that too, but I just wanted to confirm. Okay.
No, that's a great question. And it's a great opportunity for me to plug. If you haven't actually just taken a peek and reviewed the application, that would be a great exercise to do sooner than later. So I love that informed question from the application, Surinder.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone, I'm going to create another space for Q&A, but I do want to move us to this next bucket of review that I named, which is around potential. And essentially, I was just a shortened and abbreviated way for me to put business and market and impact potential together so that we could talk about it in a cohesive way. So thanks for those questions. Let's start to assess potential. So one of the things we want to ensure is that the ventures that we work with have a solid and sustainable business model in place with the ability to scale and achieve significant impact. So this isn't about perfection and you have everything figured out, but you have something workable and operational in place when it comes to the components of your business model. So during the assessment process, we're going to closely examine things like your current revenues, whether your product is actually already in the market. Good question that Surinder presented, actually kind of brought some of that up as well. And we also want to know if you have paying customers or established funders. We just really want to see where you are in the development journey. And then additionally, we are looking for folks who have a clear and accurate understanding in terms of how they think about cost and the cost structure. So one of the first elements that I'll stand out here is when you think about how we start to assess potential, it begins with business potential and just understanding where your business model is in its current state. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect and figured out in terms of all of your partnership and all of your distribution channels. It just needs to be in a space where we can see, I have something viable here. I actually know that customers want it. We know that it's impactful to the communities that we support and serve. And it's a matter of how do we actually grow and scale and strengthen that business model. So that's one of the things we want to highlight. The second thing that I want to share is that we do prioritize thinking through, when it comes to our resources here at Promise, our expertise and the connections that we have, we want to make sure that we can actually meaningfully increase your rate of progress towards your ultimate goal, hopefully of scaled impact. And so we are looking to work with ventures who you already have the necessary fuel to deepen your impact, right? You're in the communities that you want to serve, but you're looking for opportunities to either deepen that reach within those communities, or you're looking to expand into new markets. And so this could include having, when you think about that fuel, it could be, hey, I have the right team in place, right? This is right time, right place in terms of our people component. It could be a thing where you see opportunities for new funding sources. It could also just be like a unique moment in the early childhood landscape where you say, man, the timing is favorable. There's new access opportunities to get to children and families. There's been some policy shifts that are going to make our work a little bit more accessible to the communities we want to reach. It could be a number of things, but we're looking to really understand when it comes to your goals and intentions around acceleration, what fuel do you have to propel that so that we can bring all of Promise's resources to the table to help you make that impact. So that is one of the second things I want to highlight under this bucket. The third thing I want to say is, next we're looking for ventures who have a strong social impact model as well as the potential. So this means that, number one, you have a clear impact model. You have some sort of a theory of change or logic model in place, which can speak to the impact or transformation that you want to see amongst the users or beneficiaries that you serve. That also means that, you can speak to the efficiency or the effectiveness in your delivery of the solution or intervention that you have. And then thirdly, you do have the potential to reach children and families that are facing some of the greatest adversities and are most adversely affected. And so what that means is we're going to be on the lookout for solutions that are informed by evidence. Again, we understand that evidence can vary depending on where you are in the stage of your development journey. So this is not going to be a one size fits all story for every venture. We expect a lot of variation just depending on where you are. We're also looking for teams that can communicate the effectiveness of your solution. I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but how do you know it's working? How do you know you're having impact? And then we're also looking for ventures who have some momentum or breakthroughs in areas such as access and getting to the communities they want to support. And then again, viability of the product or the service that you're looking to bring to the market. So that's kind of the third thing we're looking at when it comes to impact potential. And the simplest way I can, bring that home is, do you have an impact model? This third piece here is cohort contribution potential. So in addition to, thinking about your venture solely, this is a community space. We highly value leaders who are actively seeking to be a part of a shared learning community. So that means you actually want to be in proximity to other early childhood innovators, even if they're in different domains. So we prioritize teams that are eager to exchange wisdom. You're open and willing to share your expertise, and you're really geeked about gaining valuable insights from fellow cohort members. So collaboration and building a strong community of social innovators as well as early childhood leaders is a top priority for us as we think about putting together the cohorts. And so the last area I believe I want to highlight in terms of this business market and impact potential is we're looking for ventures who have a history or a plan for assessing the impact of their interventions and their solutions. So one of the things we do want to share here is we understand, again, folks are at different spaces in their evaluation or assessment journey, and that's fine. We just want to hear what your plan is, what your intentions are. And if you're already doing this, you have a track record of it, we really want to hear about how you're measuring success for your programs and interventions. So it's important for you to take this opportunity. And I think there's a couple of moments where you can do this in an application where you can share your intentions in terms of like, how are you intending to measure impact in regards to the communities that you're supporting? And we also would love to understand, if this is a part of your model, how are you welcoming in the voices of your users and beneficiaries into your thinking and your iteration as far as how you're actually improving your approach or your solution? And so everyone, what we just did there, we just walked through, believe it or not, fairly quickly, it seems like, 5 subcategories that really inform the way we look at business market and impact potential. What I want to do now that we've went through these 2 categories, one of the main intentions for today is to answer your questions. So we'd love to pause again and open us up for more Q&A. And we're happy to go back through any of the evaluation categories if there's more clarifying questions like what Junior presented earlier. So welcome those.
Tina again. I have a question about the show and tell. And so I know the funding is not attached per se, but you have an opportunity or the potential to be in front of donors, funders, people that can actually provide capacity, technical assistance, etc. Can you tell us what that show and tell actually looks like?
Yeah, certainly. That's a great question, Katina. And then also in addition to that, one of the things I want to highlight is The connections process for a fellow starts while you're in the fellowship program. So one of the things, if you're accepted into the program, is we start to assess your needs and where your venture is. We understand that there's certain connections that can be helpful now, whether that be to potential partners or folks who have similar models to you that you'd like to learn from, and even in instances funders. So the connections piece can happen during the fellowship for fellows, just want to name that. But for show and tell itself, we anchor on a couple of things. Number one, it is a pitch development process or tool for the fellows in the program. So one of the things that we recognize is you all are doing amazing work, but we want to make sure that you're able to tell your story in a compelling and concise way. And in this last show and tell, we actually anchored a lot on using asset frame language. And so one of the primary things that we look to do through show and tell is it is a vehicle to help you develop your pitch and your story in a way that you can use that with all types of audiences. But the number one audience that we're helping you speak to is the funder audience. So number one, that's the key component of the show and tell and development process. Secondly, one of the things that we do is we work with you to understand who you're cultivating or who you're looking to reach out to as far as your prospect list. And then we try to marry that information with our list of contacts and what relationships we have. And we do a very targeted outreach campaign to get those funders in the room for show and tell. So there's a ton of work that happens behind the scenes with our team here at Promise to do customized outreach to get those funders into the room. And the way that the platform is set up, it's usually an hour-long event. It has been longer in some instances, but it's interactive with the goal of giving funders and the rest of the audience an opportunity to say, yes, I opt in. I want to connect with Katina and her venture. So that's how it works. And just post-event, hopefully I'm not giving too much detail, it's not helpful. Post-event, we send you those lists, of relationships, of contacts who said they wanted to connect with you. But we also support you in cultivating that list as well with some coaching. So long-winded way, but that is the show and tell process.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that question.
Just to piggyback on this idea of connections too, just want to be really real. So much of the connections that I've seen be really beneficial is actually with the other members of the cohort. And it has like a number of, while it might seem like a little bit of a stretch to build relationship with other organizations, those sorts of partnerships and those sorts of ways of knowing each other's work more deeply often leads to these very authentic and natural introductions to other funders that is really difficult because a lot of times that kind of ask can feel transactional, but it's been really cool to see some of the ways that the cohort has allowed you to get to know other organizations really well, and that those peer-to-peer relationships actually sometimes lead to the best connections, even more so than, sometimes Promise can make directly on your behalf.
It's a great nugget. Thank you, Jess. And I don't want to mess up your name, but I see your question here in the chat. And what I can say is you do not have to be headquartered in the US, but you have to be serving clients or users in the US. So your headquarters or your operations can be out of the US, but to qualify and be eligible for consideration for the program, you have to have an ECD relevant. So that means you have a product or solution that serves a need in early childhood development, and that is your target audience. Again, that birth to 5 range. So you have to be within that. And then secondly, you do not have to be headquartered in the US, but you do have to be serving that constituency in the US. So you can have, be supporting beneficiaries and users all over the globe, but you have to have a US presence. Do you all attempt to curate the cohort that allows us to build those peer relationships, similar ventures, solution stages, challenges? Interestingly enough, Katina and Jess, welcome you on this one as well. We look for diversity of those things as well. So it's not just like diversity in the leader's identity, but diversity in the different spaces that you're functioning in. So we like to have folks from birth equity, as well as folks from early childhood education and early language and literacy, all in the same cohort. We believe that that creates the best opportunity for you all to learn from each other. So there's diversity of geography, diversity of their primary target audience or user, and a whole host of other areas. So as we're thinking about the composition of the cohort, if anything, we do index for diversity in terms of industry, sub-industry, and all those things. So, but Jess, do you want to add to that one?
And how many folks are accepted into each cohort?
Historically, we accept up to 10, so it can be anywhere from 8 to 10 that will be accepted in this upcoming cohort. But I don't think we've had a cohort be above 10, so typically 10 ventures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Liza Gomez from United Way of San Antonio, Bexar County. Can you talk more about how you measure nonprofits versus for-profits? So I've gone through the application, I've looked through it. There's a lot of very for-profit questions attached to it, such as what is your current annual revenue goal, funding structure? Can you speak more to how you measure the nonprofits? And I saw that the Hunt Institute and other nonprofits are alumni of this program. So just interested in that measurement.
Yeah, and I do not want to mess this number up, but historically the cohort has been the fellowship has been predominantly nonprofit organizations, like I believe well over 60%, but don't quote me there. So one of the things I will say about the fellowship is we anchor on social innovation. So we use a lot of terminology and concepts that are enterprise oriented, but we believe can help social innovators in the nonprofit space build scalable interventions. And so we don't really distinguish how we evaluate those things on whether an organization is a for-profit or nonprofit, because we believe that a lot of those ingredients in terms of like, in a nonprofit context is as opposed to like, what's your revenue goal? And maybe your fundraising goal is, the actual, way that you bring in revenue. And I think we have a subsequent question under that one that is like, how do you bring in revenue? So we do ask like, what is your revenue goal? But that can be explained as your fundraising goal, your major gifts goal. It can look very differently depending on your governance structure, but we believe understanding like what you're projecting or forecasting for revenue is helpful to know, especially as we think about, is the organization solvent? Like, is what you're planning to raise for the year, how does that compare to what you're spending for the year? Are we setting those realistic goals? So that's one way to think about it. But again, Jess, welcome you if you want to add anything on that nonprofit to for-profit.
No, I think you answered that pretty well to make sure. Well, I mean, sorry, did you say your name was Lisa or Liza?
Liza.
Liza, does that help? Or when I read through I get what you're saying. Like some of the language, it's not like super nonprofit forward. So does that help answer? Or are there like other wonderings kind of baked into that as well?
You answered that question. I come from an entrepreneurial background. So like when I'm reading it, I have the entrepreneurial mindset of scaling and for-profit. So it's putting on the nonprofit lens to read through it. But I do have a follow-up question. When you're asking about the venture, so United Way of San Antonio, Bexar County, we're very sound organization, been around for a while. When you ask about the venture, are we talking about how long the initiative that we work in has been around? You want information about the initiative that we'd be pushing for the fellowship, or do you want information on United Way as an organization?
I want to say both, but Jess, I welcome your response.
Yeah, I think the answer is both, honestly. One thing that's really helpful is to understand, it's genuinely most helpful to understand what's the initiative and like what's the focus you think you'll be working on within the context of the fellowship. But it is difficult to, it is like helpful actually to know the full picture too of where that sits within the broader context of what United Way is going after. United Way is going after. As an example, last year, one of our fellows was an organization up in Oregon called Children's Institute. And the initiative that they were really pushing forward was their Early Learning Academy. And this was like a year-long professional development series that was new to them and that they were piloting and getting off the ground and really looking to figure out how to scale. But that was like no more than 5% of their total portfolio of work. And so understanding how that 5% fits in with the greater work that the organization is going after was really helpful in us understanding the context when we would offer our coaching lens for them too, because it just there's just a difference. Some folks are going to apply and this is the one thing they're doing, and that's absolutely like everything is, all their eggs are in that basket. And some folks, it's like yeah, we got a lot of really great stuff going on. And having that picture is helpful.
Okay, great. That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Once you've completed the application, you know, you still may be, you know, assessing your venture, you know, identifying opportunity gaps. And I'm just wondering, what is the room to, obviously not radically shift, but make some adjustments and some changes to your venture once you're in the process?
We anticipate that. I think one of the things I think that we are prepared for and that our coaches are for is the idea of the pivot, for things to change. What we try to mitigate is, you know, Liza, to your question, we're looking for organizations who are in position to take advantage of the fellowship. So a lot of like what the questions that you see are asking about, when we're asking about financials, we want to just make sure that you'll be in operation at the end of the 6 months of the program. So like, we're not looking for changes in like staffing or changes in your ability to keep your operation open, but in terms of you getting the fellowship and it's like, hey, this was how we were originally thinking of approaching this work, and our mind has radically changed and what might be most effective. That is like that's what we would love to have happen. Like we have seen folks go through existential crisis during the program or just have huge aha moments of revelation. So we welcome that, but just we are over indexing on your organization. And it sounds like you have a legacy organization per your earlier question, but like just being stable so that you can go through the experience fully. So, and Jess, welcome you to add, of course.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was so insightful is we did a session where past fellows were talking about their experience, and one of the alumni of the fellowship, Melanie, she just kind of said, like, you know, for us, it was also about assessing whether or not this was a good season for us to do the fellowship. Like, are we primed and ready to take advantage? One, to like commit the time and energy toward this big thing. And two, does it feel like we are positioned to take advantage of it? And I think I'm reading probably a little bit too much into your question, Junior, but I think part of the beauty of the fellowship is that like you get a chance to really narrow in on a problem of practice. Honey, mommy's gonna finish her sentence and then she will try to figure out if I'm gonna give you more fruit. Part of I think like asking that question too is like is now the right time for us to engage in the fellowship, is really asking yourselves, like, what are you hoping you're going to get out of it? And do the conditions feel right within your organization? Or are you in such a season of shifting and changing directions and not yet knowing exactly, not that you need to know exactly where you're going, but knowing what you want to work on and knowing what you want to get out of the fellowship, I think is really helpful and important as you think about your application and what you want to put down. But to Demetra's point, absolutely. I think many fellows go through this season where they're like, this is exactly what I want to work on. It's super narrow. I'm totally focused. And then as they're going through the fellowship, that lens starts to open up and it starts to feel like, ooh, like that, the possibilities are opening, they're getting wider. And then like by the end of the fellowship, they like come back to it and they're like, okay, we're back in it. We like know exactly the direction and we feel comfortable and confident heading forward. And so I'm going to end my thought there.
Well, I think you got to get some more fruit. So before
It's fruit by committee, Jess. Everyone thinks you should get more fruit.
the application, reading the questions, and you know, I can't say I remember them more, I've committed them more to memory, but it seems like all the questions were focused on the venture itself. But to Jess's point, knowing what you want to get out of the fellowship or having an idea of what you want to get out of it seems important as well. And so is that a consideration within the application or no?
For sure. There's two spaces that come to mind, and I may be missing some, but number one, there's a video question. And I believe why is now the right time for your team and in your journey? I'm butchering the question, but there's a video question of essentially why now for the fellowship. That is one of the moments we're going to be looking for transparently as reviewers to understand, like, why in your trajectory, given what you have planned for your venture, why is now the right time? And you know, that can be a number of things in terms of team strategy, but we really want to get at that. And then there's another question, I believe, in that same fellowship goals section where we ask, and we've changed the way, we've evolved the way we've asked this question over years. We used to ask, like, what are your goals? What are your SMART goals? And so now we're just getting straight to it in terms of, you're going to be assigned 2 coaches. What do you want to work on with those coaches? So we are looking to like explicitly understand to the best of your understanding at this moment, what are you hoping to get out of the fellowship? And what are you hoping to work on with this team of trusted advisors and thought partners who you will be spending, a number of hours with? What are you hoping to do with that coaching core? So we definitely want you to be explicit in terms of how you want to work with us and what you want to get out of it.
Thank you.
There was something else I wanted to double click on, but I think, one of the things I'll say about the application is it's to us as reviewers, it feels like a storytelling, medium, right? And it's an opportunity for you, of course, to tell the history of your venture, where you are currently, your impact model, your theory of change. But we really just want to get at the heart of what are you hoping to work on? Why the fellowship? And, uniquely, when you think about Promise, you don't know, you learn about what our full capacity is and what we bring in terms of resources and expertise once you're in the fellowship. But we'd love to get the general idea of how you're thinking that we can be most supportive. So.
Very tangentially, in case anyone was interested, I gave Dylan, my son's name is Dylan, I gave him raspberries, and now he has 1 raspberry on every finger. Very cute.
See, you all are already having impact, more fruit in the fellowship. Awesome. Do we have additional questions? Are there any other questions we'd love to cover in this space? Awesome. Well, if you think of any as I go over our program timeline or the application timeline, feel free to come back off mute or drop it in the chat. Thank you so much, Katina. I will say this, I hope that this served as a helpful overview and insight into the selection criteria. So this is the rest of the timeline for the remainder of this application period. We are going to have another Ask Me Anything session. We have a coffee chat available for you. You can join if you want to get some more questions asked as you're going through the application. And also you can feel free to reach out to us at team@promisestudio.org. We're happy to take questions there, but the application, closes on August 11th. And so 11:59 p.m. Eastern, I believe, to be exact. So that gives us just a few more weeks to go through the application. And then from there, our team will actually take several weeks to go through all of the applications and score and review and hopefully make final decisions around September 26th. Thank you so much, Samantha. I think it's promising. All right. Please don't jump off. I would love to share a survey with you all. We love to learn if these types of sessions are helpful and how we might make them better for you. So I am dropping a quick survey that'll hopefully take you less than a minute to complete. And hopefully you'll share your feedback with us. But that concludes our structured time, but we can stay online another 8 minutes or so if you have questions. So Jess and I can hang back to answer any more questions for you all. So thank you all for joining if you need to jump, but we welcome more questions.
Thanks for joining, y'all.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Junior.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Feel free to reach out, everyone, if you have more questions offline. We're happy to connect one-on-one.
Thank you. It was very thorough. This is a great session. I had already started the application, but this definitely clarified a few things that I just had in my head, not even specific questions, but just helped, put a fine point on it. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Too.
Bye.